Russia's military might, once a symbol of its global dominance, has crumbled to an unprecedented low, with over 315,000 casualties reported in less than 2 years of the Ukraine war. This devastating conflict has not only inflicted catastrophic losses on the battlefield but also pushed Russia into a deep socio-economic crisis that experts warn could reshape its future for generations. Is this decline truly irreversible, or could Russia find a way to rise from the ashes and reclaim its place as a global superpower? And more importantly, how will the outcome of this war impact the global order in the decades to come? This debate has sparked intense discussions among analysts and citizens alike. Let's dive into the latest updates and analyze whether this war has sealed Russia's fate or merely set the stage for its next chapter. The scale of Russian military losses in the Ukraine forever war has reached historically unprecedented levels. Specifically, U.S. intelligence agencies have documented that Russian forces suffered 315,000 killed and injured by December 2023, representing 87% of Russia's pre-war ground strength. The human toll has been particularly devastating for Russian forces. Independent Russian media outlets have confirmed more than 71,000 Russian soldiers were killed through detailed verification of obituaries and local authority statements. Furthermore, BBC researchers estimate the actual death toll could be between 128,231 and 185,196 by mid-December 2024. Military hardware losses have been equally catastrophic. Documented Russian equipment losses include 3,677 tanks, 11,462 armored combat vehicles, 21,710 artillery systems, 369 aircraft, and 331 aircraft. The significant losses have profoundly weakened Russia's military capabilities, particularly due to the depletion of its most experienced personnel. This includes the degradation of elite units, the professional soldier base, and the junior officer corps, all of which have disrupted its combined arms operational effectiveness. At the same time, the defense industry's efforts to replace these losses have resulted in a noticeable decline in quality. Manufacturers have been compelled to rely on dual-use civilian components in military equipment, reactivate Soviet-era tanks and artillery, and prioritize quantity over quality in production. Consequently, Russian forces now struggle to conduct effective combined arms operations beyond the company level. The situation has become particularly critical as recruits typically survive only about 1 month after signing their contracts, fundamentally undermining unit cohesion and combat effectiveness. The Russia-Ukraine war update today reveals that Russian forces continue to suffer approximately 1,000 casualties daily, suggesting these losses will likely persist. Military analysts indicate that at current attrition rates, Russia can sustain its assault for another 2 to 3 years, albeit with increasingly degraded capabilities. The Russian military-industrial complex faces unprecedented challenges in sustaining its war effort, with systemic failures emerging across its defense manufacturing sector. The defense industry currently operates with a critical shortage of 400,000 workers, including 120,000 positions requiring higher education. Russia's defense manufacturing capabilities have significantly declined, exacerbated by a workforce shortage driven by the war, when employment has fallen to a 30-year low of 3%. But this statistic masks a severe deficit of approximately 1 million workers. This shortfall includes 300,000 to 500,000 individuals mobilized for military service and over 500,000 skilled workers who have left the country. The defense sector is facing significant challenges in obtaining essential technologies. Foreign manufacturers once supplied up to 50% of the electronic components for rocket systems and as much as 70% of the components used in satellite production. The industry's dependence on Western technology has become particularly acute for advanced weapons systems. Nevertheless, attempts to source alternatives have led to significant quality compromises. A comprehensive study by the Russian Higher School of Economics revealed that over 60% of executives believe they can only partially replace foreign equipment and technologies within 3 years. The modernization efforts launched by Russia following 2014 have largely fallen short of their intended goals, with many long-standing issues not only persisting but becoming more severe over time. Financial challenges, for instance, have escalated into significant profitability problems, undermining the economic sustainability of key industries. Quality control, a critical component of maintaining military and technological competitiveness, has deteriorated further, leading to declining manufacturing standards and reduced reliability of production outputs. Meanwhile, innovation, a cornerstone of any successful modernization program, has stagnated, with research and development capabilities failing to keep pace with global advancements. Moreover, the situation has created a parallel black market economy for certain components. Undoubtedly, this has led to what experts describe as military industry overheating, an unsustainable model where rising costs consume an increasing share of economic output. Lastly, the defense industry's attempts at import substitution have proven largely unsuccessful. The nation now relies heavily on lower quality substitutes, primarily sourced through third countries. This has forced many manufacturers to simplify their production processes, leading to decreased technological sophistication in newer military equipment. The devastating economic impact of the Ukraine forever war has fundamentally altered Russia's financial landscape. The International Monetary Fund reports that Russia's GDP remains 7% below pre-war forecasts, although military spending now consumes an unprecedented 7.5% of GDP. Despite appearing resilient on the surface, the Russian economy is grappling with deep structural challenges that have been exacerbated by the ongoing war. Military spending has surged to unprecedented levels, with the 2024 defense budget set at 13.5 trillion rubles, amounting to roughly 41% of total federal expenditures. While this massive allocation underscores the government's focus on sustaining its military operations, it has also introduced severe distortions across other sectors of the economy. The defense industry has absorbed a substantial portion of the workforce, employing approximately 3.5 million Russians, yet this shift has not been without consequence. Broader manufacturing output has declined by 1.7%, reflecting the strain on industries not directly linked to defense production. Meanwhile, car manufacturing, a vital indicator of economic health, has collapsed to less than 25% of pre-invasion levels, signaling the broader economic fragility caused by the war. These imbalances highlight the growing challenges facing Russia's economy as it prioritizes military needs at the expense of long-term stability and industrial diversification. The stability of the Russian ruble has suffered a significant decline throughout the ongoing conflict, reflecting the broader economic pressures facing the country. In November 2023, the ruble plummeted to 110 against the US dollar, its weakest value since March 2022, signaling a troubling trajectory for Russia's currency. This alarming depreciation compelled the central bank to intervene with aggressive monetary policies to stabilize the financial system. Among these measures, the central bank raised the interest rate to 21%, the highest level in 2 decades, in a bid to curb inflation and attract capital back into the economy. However, inflation has surged to 8.5%, twice the bank's target rate, exacerbating financial instability and eroding consumer purchasing power. As a result, the cost of basic living expenses has increased by 20%, placing a heavier burden on households and significantly impacting real incomes. Subsequently, this currency crisis has triggered a chain reaction across the economy. The weakening ruble has substantially increased import costs, although it has paradoxically helped prop up the government's war budget through increased export revenues. The impact of Western sanctions has created unprecedented challenges for Russia's international trade position. Overall, approximately $300 billion of Russian central bank assets remain immobilized, severely limiting its ability to stabilize the economy. Despite these challenges, Russia's trade dynamics have shifted significantly as it seeks alternative markets and methods to sustain its vital energy exports. India has emerged as a key player in this new trade framework, with its imports of Russian crude oil skyrocketing by an astonishing 2,000% since the onset of the conflict. Alongside India, China has also become a primary destination for Russian oil, reinforcing a pivot toward Asian markets. Additionally, a shadowy network of tankers, often referred to as the Dark Fleet, has facilitated the daily movement of approximately 1 million barrels of oil, circumventing sanctions and ensuring the continued flow of Russian energy exports. Although Russia maintains certain trade relationships, its global economic position continues to deteriorate. The nation faces mounting challenges in accessing key technologies and industrial inputs, while sanctions have prompted numerous international banks to curtail ties with the Russian financial sector. The economic outlook appears increasingly uncertain as Russia struggles with competing priorities between military spending and civilian needs. The labor market faces severe distortions, with machinists and welders in military equipment factories now earning more than many white-collar professionals. The technological landscape in Russia has undergone a dramatic transformation in the wake of the Ukraine forever war. Initially, over 1,000 foreign tech companies terminated or severely curtailed their operations in Russia, creating unprecedented disruptions across multiple sectors. The departure of Western technology companies has dealt a severe blow to Russia's industrial and technological sectors, creating operational challenges reminiscent of the economic struggles following the Soviet Union's collapse. With foreign firms withdrawing en masse, Russian industries are grappling with a critical shortage of components and technological infrastructure necessary for sustaining modern production and innovation. A significant consequence of this exodus is the loss of access to approximately 90% of the pre-war foreign software previously utilized by state entities, leaving government operations and industries reliant on outdated or improvised alternatives. Additionally, high-tech imports valued at $19 billion annually have been cut off, further crippling industries dependent on advanced equipment and materials. Compounding these issues is the reduction of 66% of critical technology imports from the European Union and the United States, effectively severing Russia from much of the global supply chain. These disruptions have forced the nation to turn to domestic production and alternative trading partners, but the gaps left by the absence of Western technology are proving difficult to fill. The resulting inefficiencies and technological stagnation are expected to have far-reaching implications for Russia's economic and industrial development in the years ahead. Russia's efforts to achieve technological self-sufficiency have largely failed to meet expectations, revealing deep structural weaknesses in its domestic industries. A prime example of this failure is the semiconductor sector, where Russia's chip production operates with 65-nanometer technology, which is roughly 15 years behind the global standards set by Western countries. This technological gap underscores the challenges Russia faces in modernizing its industries and competing on the global stage. In the field of software development, while there have been some attempts to create domestic alternatives, these efforts have seen only limited success. Despite considerable investment, Russian-made software has struggled to achieve the functionality and global competitiveness of foreign solutions, leaving many industries reliant on outdated or inferior options. Hardware manufacturing has also been severely affected, with critical component shortages hampering production and further stalling technological progress. A comprehensive survey of Russian IT engineers highlighted the severity of these issues, revealing that a mere 7.2% of engineers reported receiving tangible benefits from government support programs aimed at fostering innovation and technological development. This disconnection between policy and actual results has only compounded the difficulties faced by the country's technological sector, leaving Russia increasingly isolated from global advancements and unable to sustain its ambitions for self-reliance. The deterioration of Russia's digital infrastructure has been particularly severe, coupled with the departure of approximately 100,000 IT specialists by December 2022. The Russia-Ukraine war update today indicates that the nation's technological isolation is now both a reality and an enforced policy. The consequences of these technological setbacks go beyond just the immediate capabilities of the industry, significantly affecting broader sectors like cybersecurity. Russia's cybersecurity sector is grappling with increasing difficulties in maintaining critical infrastructure, which is essential for national security and economic stability. Additionally, the need to develop viable software alternatives to foreign platforms has proven to be a complex and slow-moving challenge, further limiting the country's ability to safeguard its digital landscape. On top of these issues, the retention of technical expertise has become a growing concern, as many skilled professionals have either left the country or sought opportunities elsewhere, depriving Russia of the human capital necessary to address these mounting cybersecurity threats effectively. The situation has prompted Moscow to implement emergency measures, including exempting IT workers from military conscription. Notwithstanding these efforts, imports of technology goods have dropped by 30%, forcing reliance on lower-grade substitutes and gray market procurement channels. First of all, Russia faces an unprecedented exodus of its intellectual capital, marking one of the most significant demographic shifts in its modern history. The University of Chicago estimates that 200,000 Russians fled their country in just the first 10 days of the Ukraine forever war, with current estimates indicating between 817,000 and 922,000 people have left. The exodus of talent from Russia represents a catastrophic loss of some of the country's most skilled and educated individuals. A significant portion of those who have left are relatively young, with 86% being under the age of 45. Moreover, 80% of those who have departed hold college degrees, reflecting the high level of education and expertise among those choosing to flee. In 2022 alone, at least 100,000 IT professionals left the country, further depleting Russia's already strained technological workforce and exacerbating the challenges the nation faces in maintaining its competitiveness in key sectors. The Russia-Ukraine war update today highlights the severe deterioration in Russia's innovation capabilities. Patent filings in Russia dropped 13% in 2022, with foreign patent applications plummeting by 30%. Additionally, labor productivity declined more than 3% last year, fundamentally undermining the nation's economic potential. The impact is particularly felt in key sectors. For example, the IT industry experienced a loss of 10% of its specialists by December 2022, as many skilled professionals sought opportunities abroad. In scientific research, around 58,000 highly educated individuals emigrated annually, further depleting Russia's intellectual capital. In the realm of software development, nearly 28% of developers have relocated overseas, signaling a critical brain drain that hampers the country's ability to maintain its technological edge and global competitiveness. The long-term implications of this mass departure are particularly severe for Russia's future. Workers under the age of 35 now constitute less than 30% of the labor force, reaching the lowest level in 2 decades. Primarily, this demographic shift has created an estimated labor shortage of 1.5 million people. The impact extends beyond immediate workforce gaps. The Russians are grappling with a decline in the quality of public services, which has become increasingly insufficient due to the lack of skilled professionals in various sectors. Educational institutions are also facing significant challenges with reduced capabilities that hinder the development of future generations. Additionally, the healthcare system is deteriorating, as healthcare standards continue to decline amid staffing shortages and insufficient resources. Most compelling evidence suggests this exodus represents an irreversible trend. Among those opposing Putin's regime, 40% express willingness to emigrate. The geographic dispersion of talent is extensive, with no single destination receiving more than 13% of departing professionals. The situation has become so critical that the Russian government has implemented emergency measures, offering IT workers tax breaks and benefits to prevent further departures. Despite these efforts, the nation continues to lose its most productive demographic, with those leaving being significantly more active and central in their professional networks. The international community's response to the Ukraine forever war has created unprecedented diplomatic isolation for Russia. Primarily, Western nations have implemented over 16,500 sanctions against Russian entities, marking the most comprehensive isolation of a major power in modern history. Russia's diplomatic standing has rapidly and thoroughly declined, with the country facing exclusion from several key international platforms. Its membership in the G8 was suspended, leaving it part of the G7, and cooperation channels with NATO have been terminated. Cultural exchange programs with the United States have been withdrawn, further isolating Russia from global collaboration in the arts and sciences. Additionally, bilateral engagement on economic matters has been suspended, severing important channels of dialogue and cooperation that once played a crucial role in foreign relations. This isolation extends beyond traditional diplomatic channels. The Russia-Ukraine war update today indicates that approximately 70% of Russian banking assets now operate under restrictions, markedly limiting the nation's ability to engage in international finance. The scope of trade restrictions has reached historic proportions. Current sanctions target multiple sectors. In maritime transport, over 2,800 Russian vessels have been banned from entering EU ports, severely disrupting international shipping. Oil exports have been hit with a 90% reduction in imports from the EU, significantly damaging Russia's energy trade. Financial messaging has also been targeted, with the SWIFT system being outlawed, isolating Russian financial institutions from global networks. Additionally, comprehensive export controls have been enforced, restricting Russia's access to critical technologies and further hindering its ability to maintain and develop advanced industries. Henceforth, Russia has attempted to pivot towards alternative partnerships. Straightaway, trade with China and India has increased substantially, although these relationships fail to compensate for lost Western markets. Russia's cultural isolation has become more pronounced since the invasion, with a series of significant developments that have left the country increasingly cut off from the global cultural landscape. One of the first major moves was the withdrawal from the US-Russia Cultural Memorandum of 1998, which had previously facilitated exchanges and collaboration between the two nations in the arts. In addition to this, many cultural institutions have suspended theatrical performances and art exhibitions, significantly limiting the visibility of Russian culture on the world stage. Moreover, the works of Russian artists have been removed from international venues, further contributing to the country's cultural alienation. The situation has been exacerbated by the emigration of prominent cultural figures who have sought refuge abroad to escape the growing pressures at home. Notable among them are pop artist Alla Pugacheva, rock star Zemfira, and acclaimed novelist Lyudmila Ulitskaya, each of whom has decided to leave Russia. Their departure highlights the broader exodus of influential individuals from Russia's creative industries, marking a significant loss for the country's cultural vitality. The Putin regime's approach to cultural policy differs fundamentally from historical precedents. Rather than following Soviet-era patterns of cultural control, the current administration emphasizes loyalty above artistic merit. This shift has led to the removal of works by world-renowned artists like Mikhail Baryshnikov from public spaces. The isolation extends to educational and research spheres. Currently, approximately 38% of the global population lives in not-free countries, with Russia's actions contributing significantly to this democratic decline. The situation has prompted international organizations to document more than 15 years of democratic regression. The comprehensive nature of this isolation suggests long-term implications. As unrest continues in eastern Ukraine, relations between Russia and Euro-Atlantic states remain at their lowest point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. This situation has prompted the development of alternative financial infrastructures, including China's cross-border interbank payment system and India's unified payments interface. Russia's energy sector, once the cornerstone of its global influence, faces an unprecedented decline as the Ukraine Forever War continues into its third year. The nation's share of internationally traded energy is projected to plummet from 20% in 2021 to 13% by 2030. One of the most dramatic shifts in Russia's economic landscape has been the significant change in its relationship with Europe, its largest export market before the conflict. Before the war, the European Union accounted for up to 90% of Russia's total gas exports, making it a critical trade partner. However, the situation has shifted dramatically in recent years. Gas production in Russia has dropped by 20%, falling from 515 billion cubic meters to 413 billion cubic meters, reflecting the broader disruptions in the energy sector. As a result, EU gas imports from Russia have plunged to just 13% of pre-war levels, marking a dramatic reduction in the country's export capacity. In addition to the decline in gas exports, pipeline exports have reached their lowest point since the collapse of the Soviet Union, further diminishing Russia's presence in the European energy market. This sharp drop in gas sales has had significant consequences for major Russian energy companies, particularly Gazprom. The company's financial performance has taken a severe hit, with its revenue plummeting by 41% year-over-year during the first half of 2023. This financial setback has been accompanied by a staggering 71% decline in sales profits, underscoring the extent to which the loss of European markets has impacted Russia's energy sector. The reversal of this critical trade relationship has left Russia scrambling to find alternative markets while struggling to maintain its position as a global energy supplier. Russia's energy infrastructure is encountering increasingly difficult operational challenges, particularly within the gas sector, which faces severe structural limitations. Unlike the oil industry, which retains some degree of flexibility in response to disruptions, the gas industry is struggling to adapt. Gas production has declined by 25%, and a significant portion of pipeline infrastructure, spanning thousands of miles, has been left stranded due to the loss of key export routes. As a result, Russia's export capacity has been reduced by 42% since 2021, further hampering its ability to supply energy to international markets. The situation is expected to worsen soon, as Ukraine's transit agreement for the transportation of gas through its pipelines is set to expire in 2024, raising concerns about the continued flow of Russian gas to Europe. Meanwhile, the Turk Stream pipeline, with a capacity of 15.75 billion cubic meters per year, remains the primary remaining artery for Russian gas exports to European countries. However, this route alone is insufficient to compensate for the significant losses in export capacity, and the ongoing challenges within the sector threaten to deepen Russia's energy isolation. The investment climate in Russia's energy sector has significantly worsened in recent years, presenting new challenges that were not as prevalent in previous periods. The industry now faces a substantial reduction in access to Western technology and expertise, which were previously vital for maintaining and advancing energy infrastructure. Additionally, there is limited funding available for the necessary maintenance of existing infrastructure, further straining the sector's ability to operate effectively. Compounding these issues is the declining interest from foreign investors, who are increasingly hesitant to engage with Russia's energy market due to the geopolitical climate and economic uncertainties. The situation has become particularly acute as oil and gas revenues declined 24% in 2023 compared to 2022. Otherwise profitable ventures now face challenges, as demonstrated by Gazprom's first net loss since 1999. The investment outlook remains bleak, primarily due to sanctions and geopolitical tensions. Namely, attempts to pivot towards Asian markets have yielded limited success. Infrastructure limitations prevent Russia from redirecting natural gas from Western fields to Eastern markets, undermining potential alternative revenue streams. The Russia-Ukraine war update today indicates that Moscow's energy strategy has backfired significantly. The International Energy Agency predicts Russia's share of global oil and gas trade will halve by 2030. Unless substantial changes occur, the nation's position in global energy markets appears set for continued decline. Looking ahead to 2025 to 2027, Russia's strategic position appears increasingly precarious as the Ukraine forever war continues to drain its resources. Current assessments indicate that Russia's military-industrial complex operates at 81% capacity, with 73% of enterprises reporting critical labor shortages. The Russian military faces severe operational constraints through 2024. At present, the force comprises approximately 470,000 troops in Ukraine, yet sustaining this level poses mounting challenges. The military is primarily grappling with significant challenges, particularly in the production of complex weapons systems. There has been a sharp 30% increase in the cost of components, which has strained the ability to maintain and develop advanced military technology. Additionally, the military is struggling to meet its ammunition requirements, with an annual demand for 4,152mm shells that remain unmet. The Russia-Ukraine war update today reveals a stark reality: Russian artillery production will plateau at 3 million rounds per year. Unquestionably, this shortfall undermines Moscow's ability to maintain offensive operations beyond 2025. The Russian economy is showing signs of severe overheating, with structural weaknesses becoming more evident as key economic indicators reveal a troubling trend. The unemployment rate has reached a record low of 2.3%, but this figure masks the deeper issues within the labor market, as there are 1.6 million unfilled positions across various sectors. Meanwhile, real inflation for households has surpassed 20%, significantly eroding the purchasing power of the population and creating widespread economic instability. Certainly, the situation appears particularly dire for Putin's core supporters. Public sector workers, including teachers, doctors, and law enforcement personnel, face mounting economic pressure as their wages remain tied to official inflation rates of 9%. Throughout this period, the Kremlin's prioritization of military spending has created significant economic distortions. Decisively, additional state revenues are now allocated almost exclusively to defense expenditures. This fiscal approach has produced several concerning trends, including exhaustion of production capacities, stagnant export revenues, and chronic labor shortages. The erosion of Russian power projection capabilities appears irreversible through 2026 to 2027. Fundamentally, three critical limitations constraining Russia's future influence are labor force deficits, depleted production capacity, and sanctions-restricted export revenues. Russia's international standing continues to decline, with significant challenges undermining its ability to maintain a prominent global presence. The country is grappling with diminished military capabilities, which hinder its power projection and reduce its influence in strategic areas. Additionally, Russia's economic leverage in international affairs has weakened, limiting its ability to exert influence over global markets and diplomatic negotiations. At the same time, restricted access to critical technologies is stalling its modernization efforts, further isolating Russia from the advancements necessary to stay competitive on the global stage. The strategic outlook beyond 2025 appears increasingly challenging. Essentially, Russia confronts a tipping point where the social contract between state and citizens faces unprecedented strain. Citizens must now accept rising inequality, declining quality of life, and limited economic prospects. Looking toward 2026, Russia will likely exhaust the most available equipment stocks. Undeniably, this depletion of military resources coincides with broader strategic challenges. The nation's ability to maintain its current military posture faces increasing constraints as Western component restrictions tighten, production costs continue rising, and available stockpiles diminish. From a broader perspective, Russia's strategic position appears increasingly unstable. Notably, the current economic model confronts three fundamental limitations, including critical workforce shortages, exhausted production capabilities, and declining export revenues. The combined impact of these challenges points to a significant weakening of Russia's strategic capabilities. The situation creates a paradox where apparent short-term stability conceals a deeper, long-term decline. This dynamic is evident in several key areas, including an over-reliance on government spending, which has become a crutch for the economy, and unsustainable military expenditure that strains resources without ensuring lasting strength. Meanwhile, civilian infrastructure continues to deteriorate, further contributing to the broader decline and weakening the foundations necessary for Russia's future growth and stability. By 2027, analysts project that Russia's fiscal and social challenges will fully materialize into a crisis. Fundamentally, this trajectory indicates a substantial erosion of Russian power across multiple domains, such as military capability degradation, economic structural weakness, and diplomatic isolation. The strategic implications of Russia's current situation go beyond immediate military concerns, touching on broader national capabilities. The country's ability to maintain its current force posture is increasingly constrained as Western sanctions continue to impact critical industries. This creates a compounding effect, where military modernization comes to a halt, economic recovery remains out of reach, and Russia's global influence continues to wane. The combination of these factors threatens to diminish the country's standing on the world stage and further weaken its long-term strategic position. Russia's military failure in Ukraine has caused severe losses, including 315,000 troops and the departure of nearly 1 million educated professionals. This, combined with a collapsing defense industry and economic strain, is pushing Russia toward long-term decline. By 2027, the nation's global influence and military capabilities will likely continue to deteriorate. Can Russia recover, or is this the end of its global power? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.